welcome to another episode on our channel. So this is coming from Virginia. And there goes my little Miss Evil. Just slowly but surely moving along the table. Okay, and it is beat up, but I'm not, as I said earlier before my husband cut the camera, I'm not consumed or in pain, consumed by pain. He thought I meant concerned, which is probably the better word, to be honest. But anyway, I'm not concerned because it doesn't have an art box. So I'm starting to get more into statues and that sort of thing, but 1/6 scale. So I'm hoping this is going to look pretty good. And this is unpainted, so it even comes cheaper, which these days cheaper is better. Now the last thing I got was actually painted. Came from Portugal. And oh my gosh, the artist did a tremendous job. We've got lots of pieces. This is how these 3D resin prints come. So we do have lots of pieces. But the person has provided a lot of bubble wrap, it looks like, even though the box is beat up. I kind of expect that these days. The Postal Service isn't what it used to be. So, move this out of the way. So these are bows and arrows. More arrows, pieces of a bow, parts of the outfit. Move that over there. This would be the lower part of the body. It looks like they did their best to get the scaffolding pieces off. I see a lot of sanding. Sorry about that sound. I think they did, from what I can see so far, a pretty good job on the sanding. Here is the upper portion of the body. This would be more of the classic Hawkeye. And again, more sanding, which is good. This is a part of the stand. Hello, little one. I see you coming towards everything. Uh-oh. That looks like a broken piece. It's like a broken piece of an arrow. It just kind of fell out of that sack. Oh, it fell out of this. And maybe it's supposed to be that, for all I know. There's nothing else in there, it looks like. Yes, that's a box, little one. She wants to get in it so bad. All right. This looks a little... okay. All right. This looks problematic. This looks like it has not been cured. And it's cracked. That's a problem.
Resin running out, obviously.
There is resin, apparently, my husband is saying, running out. So this is not sufficiently cured. I shouldn't be touching it.
Broken on the side.
And it is cracked. So, all right. So I just wanted to show you the pieces, though. That would be the other part of the stand. I'll wash my hands in a second. But he'll have to cure that further, and that's dangerous to not cure it appropriately. All right. So I'm a little disappointed with that, but I may be able to get some money back because of that. All right. So just so you can see, it is cracked and there was moisture on the sack, on the wrapping, which means that it's not cured, and I see liquidy stuff on it.
Careful, you'll never get that off the table of it.
Okay, he's concerned, so I just wanted some documentation evidence. Okay, I'll be back. I gotta wash my hands, and we've got to get it in a safe place and get it under UV light. So we'll be right back. So we are back, and I decided to get gloves because it was evident to me that there is some resin on this thing. The figure, I mean, the neat thing about getting this item was that it took about 2 weeks, and usually it takes a lot longer to get a 3D resin print from someone. And I do like that they, for the most part, took off the scaffolding on the item, on the separate pieces, and they sanded it down. It's just that they could have taken an air compressor and blown some of the siding, not the siding, but the sanding, some of the crumbs, so to speak, away from the figure, the dust. So they didn't do that for some reason. And I don't know why, because even if you don't have an air compressor, you can take a fibrous cloth and kind of wipe things down, put it under water, wipe things down. It really shouldn't come with all this the resin that's been sanded down. You shouldn't have it kind of the dust on it like it does have. So this is part of the stand. The really disappointing part was this part of the stand. So this part of the stand is clearly broken. You can see the crack here, all the way to the side, and in the back. And trust me, it is hollow. And right now, if I put any force on this thing, it'll break in half. It is, holding together basically by a thread. This was wrapped in, all the big pieces was wrapped in paper. And I don't know if you can tell. Let me see if I can get a look here. Yeah, you see this right here? This is resin contaminated water. And we tested a piece of the paper. We just put water on it, let it dry. It evaporated completely. This is resin contaminated paper. So they didn't get all the resin water, the dirty resin, they didn't get it out of this piece. And that's kind of why I think it broke, because it was still leaking. And it was only wrapped in one piece of paper, and it wasn't taped shut. There was no bubble wrap around it. I'm sure they used paper for fear of some leaking. And if they put it in bubble wrap, then when somebody would open it up, they might get that resin contaminated water on their hands, and that would not be a good thing. So this piece is clearly broken. This is not dusted off nicely, but these two pieces would make the stand, obviously, just like that. And I thought there was a broken arrow. Patch, I don't know where the is it in here? Okay, yeah. It's just hidden in a couple spots. So here's part of a broken arrow, and this other part. Get out this way. So I thought it was a broken arrow completely, these two pieces that you can barely see, but it actually goes through the head. One piece on this side and one piece on this side of the figure that supposedly is dead, that is part of the stand. All right. So that, I thought it was broken. It's not. It is as it should be. This would go together, but part of the stand is broken. These 3 arrows go to one of the bows, and you just have a peg and a peg hole, and you can, if you get it in just so you can get the arrow to hold together. You put 3 arrows against it, apparently. That's how he would be holding it from this angle. All right. And they included 2 bows, so that's kind of nice. And 1 arrow, in case you wanted to go that direction. You have the holder for the bows, and you can just, it has a peg attached to it, and you put it in the peg hole. And you can twist it really at any angle that you want, get it in that way. And then this goes onto, the torso goes onto the body, and it's just not a nice fit. It'll have to be sanded down to fit a bit better. But the really weird thing I'm seeing with some of these 3D resin figures, let me try to get this to jiggle around, is the size of the head compared to the feet. The head looks small. And if you put the foot against the face, it's twice, the boot is twice the size of the head. My shoe against my face is 2/3 the size. My shoe is, my head is 2/3 the size of my shoe. For my husband, it's the same way, but this is half. This is a really big foot. So when you put this on, and you look at the proportions, it just really doesn't look right in real life. This foot especially looks out of proportion to the tiny, tiny, tiny head here. But when they take photographs of these things, it's usually with a black background, and you really can't see the size of the foot. It doesn't look disproportionate. But when you get it in real life, it really does look disproportionate. So we put this here. Okay, that works. This thing becomes part of his outfit, and this thing goes in the back, becomes part of his outfit, like that. And then, of course, he holds the bow and the arrows, 3 of them. But the big thing that was very frustrating when we got this was this thing was really, really torn up, cracked. And when I say cracked, I mean, seriously, I apply a little pressure to this whole thing's going to break. I mean, the crack goes all the way down to this end over here. I mean, it's going to break easily. And I'm not sure it was under the UV light long enough, because again, contaminated water created a stain on the piece of the paper that was folded around this part of the item. Mind you, they use paper and not bubble wrap. That tells me, again, they're expecting some leakage, and leakage is not good. So that probably contributed. The fact that they used paper and not bubble wrap meant that was probably moving around in the box, which was pretty beat up when it got to us. So it could have broken because it wasn't secured correctly, but more likely than not, it was because it wasn't quite completely dry, and not enough UV light to really give it more stability. And if they use water-based resin, you're not supposed to use water-based resin and make things hollow. But this is definitely hollow. The fact that this has a hole in the head means that they drained the resin out of that, so that's hollow. It just makes things more fragile. So I guess the point of this video is to say what you should look for if you do get a 3D resin print. Number one, hopefully all the scaffolding is gone and it's been sanded down and cleared of the sanding process. You know, this is blown off or wiped off nicely, washed off, whatever. That would be a good sign that this is a good resin print. The scaffolds are gone, they're sanded down, the sanding, what's left of the sanding is wiped off. Number two, there are no cracks in the item. And there's no liquid running out of the item. I mean, that's the most dangerous part. Whether you're talking about water-based resins or more toxic resins, and it's not to say that water-based resins are not toxic. They are toxic still. So they can cause skin irritations, they can cause allergies, they can cause damage to the eyes, they can cause cancer, they can be carcinogens, they can cause organ toxicity. So when I first saw that this had a stain that remained, that definitely was not clean water, it was resin contaminated water, I immediately didn't want to touch it, but I did to show it to you. And then I had my husband's put alcohol on my hands, and I washed my hands thoroughly after that to make sure I wasn't contaminated. Now, the good news is I reported the deficits to this person, and they're going to give me my money back. And I'm asking them, did they, you know, I did ask to return the item, but they said, go ahead and keep it. So my husband will probably put it under UV light to make sure everything, I'm sure he will, put it under UV light to make sure everything is solidified for sure. And then we can work on trying to repair the damage in the stand or putting it on a different stand, whatever works. But right now, the important thing for you guys to know is that sometimes these things do not come to you perfectly. I have to say, the katana figure that was sent from Portugal, that was done wonderfully. Not only was all the scaffolding removed and the sanding done, but the artist, the painting of the statue was perfectly done. And it did have a break in the foot. When I opened it up from 21 feet of bubble wrap and picked it up, the foot did snap, but it was such a clean break that it was easy to put together. So I was happy with the purchase. No problems here. This one, too much damage. Thus, I was going to ask for a return, and the person said, just keep it, and they'll refund us. So I just asked, are you sure? You know, and waiting to hear back from them. So anyway, we thought this would be a good video to show you guys in case you're into 3D resin prints. This is one that you probably wouldn't accept. Now, the person included a long paper. In fact, let me read some of the things. Yeah, of disclaimers to the item. It says this comes unassembled, unpainted. Of course, that's true. And he goes on to say that it may arrive with dust from sanding, which is true. Okay, it can be removed by washing in warm soapy water, which is true. Your model has been washed in hot water and rinsed in warm. Okay, and it's been cured with the UV box. And it says this, you might get some grayish water seeping out of pieces of the statue. And this person makes a point to say, okay, you may get that seepage, but please note, this is not uncured resin. It is resin contaminated water, and it is dangerous to handle. So because we knew enough about this process, wrote him back. He doesn't take returns, but with the information we provided and the pictures we provided, he is going to refund me. So knowledge is your friend here. You know that Nemo, fish are your friends. Okay, knowledge is your friend when it comes to 3D resins, because despite this disclaimers, when I ran through, with the help of my husband, the problems with this particular 3D print, he willingly agreed to refund me. So whether we keep it or he does indeed ask for a return, it doesn't much matter to me. But if we do keep it, I'll try. My husband will put it under UV light. We'll get it cured appropriately, and I'll try to repair the stand. If not, I'll put it on a different stand. I just think it's a cool figure, but it is not proportionate. That's the problem. That's the part I don't like about this thing. I'll show you a picture of it as it's painted, and you'll see, if you look closely at it, it is printed as it is modeled. So the one that's painted is not proportionate either, but the angle that they took it at, and with the paint on it and with a black background, it doesn't look disproportionate. But what I'm finding a lot is that with 3D resin prints, the heads seem to be smaller compared to the rest of the body. Don't know why, but that just seems to be the pattern I've noticed. So this is an addendum to show you what it looks like when it's put together. Although I didn't force everything into place with the pegs and so forth, I kind of got it together at least a little bit to give you an idea as to what the finished product might look like. I do have the arrow missing that would go through the head. So part of the arrow up here and part of the arrow down here. But anyway, I think once it's repaired, once all the resin is hardened, once it's repaired, and once it's painted, it probably will look pretty darn good. But I wasn't willing to keep it in a broken state. If he decides he wants to go through with refunding me for it and letting me keep it, I'm content to try to put it together. Anyway, so that's an addendum. Now, for sure, have a great day.